Oh, I guess we're live. So, the latest trend in this YouTube world seems to be tier lists. And I'm a bit of a fan of Survivor. So I thought, yeah, Survivor tier list. I think that's a perfect introduction to what we're doing. You know what's up. Survivor seasons, all 37. Not doing 38 quite yet. One more episode left. I'm excited. But yeah, let's go. So I'm gonna do this in order. I'm gonna start with Survivor Borneo, the original season. I thought this was a great season. Before I watched this, I saw that everyone had it really high in their rankings, and I was like, oh, that's just because it was the first one and it laid the groundwork for the rest of the show, so people just automatically think that's good. But nah, it's actually a really solid season, and it still holds up. It was really interesting, so I'm gonna chuck it up in the superior. What does S stand for? Is that superior? Super? Sick as? Survivor! S is Survivor. That is in the Survivor category. Okay, next we have the Australian Outback, which is right. First one to find it wins. Here. So this is set in my home country, and as a season, it was very enjoyable. It had the most viewers more than any other season. But I wouldn't put it up there in like the greatest of all time, but it was still very solid. So I'm giving it A for Australia. Season 3, Africa. Now this was one that was like pretty low on everyone's lists, and so I watched it not expecting much. But it was amazing. It was incredible. Think of the cast. Lex, Big Tom, Ethan, Clarence, Lindsay Richter is the best person ever. I'm gonna put this in the A. I don't care what y'all say. Colton reference. Now we're up to Marquesas. I'd say this is also an underrated season. It was pretty good. I had a good time. It wasn't amazing, but I'd say it's enough to put in the B range. Yeah, I'd do that. A B minus. I give that a B minus. We've entered season 5, Thailand. Thailand, awesome winner in my opinion. I think Brian's a legend, but besides from that, not much else. Clay was a legend, and Big Ted Jr. was 150 to 200% a legend. But yeah, nothing else about this was that good, so I'm gonna have to put in the D. I'm so sorry. Season 6, The Amazon. Awesome. I loved it. So good. Rob Sesternino was a funny lad, still is a funny lad. Disappointing winner, in my opinion. But amazing season. It's gone right in the A's. Next up, we have Pearl Islands. This was the introduction of fan favorite Rupert, two-time winner Sandra, mega villain Johnny Fairplay, and much, much more. Everything about the season is great, except for the outcast twists. But besides from that, awesome, amazing. I'm putting this season right in the S for Survivor, in the Survivor tier. Next, we have Season 8 All-Stars. Now, this was a big one. Bringing back all the favorites, the first returning player season ever. And it didn't turn out so well. I don't know, lots of people say that this was like brutal because everyone was good friends at the time and there was too much backstabbing. But I sort of liked that. I was feeling All-Stars. I was into it. I thought that like the things that people don't like about it, how real and how, I don't know, how bad, I don't know, whatever people think. I enjoyed it. So I'm just going to chuck it right in the middle at B. Next we have Vanuatu. This is another one where lots of people are split. I feel like there's definitely some people out there who are like, Vanuatu is great. But watching it, I find it that good. I love Chris. Eliza is a legend. But I'm just not feeling it. I'm going to put it in the C range. I'm sorry to Vanuatu fans. Controversial, I know. Palau. What an incredible season. This was one of the most interesting pre-mergers, Stephanie LaGrossa, everyone's hero. And then the winner was one of the most dominating winners of all time. This was a really good season. I will place this in the A range. Now, we move on to Guatemala. A season with no returning players, not including Stephanie, no original returning players. A season forgotten by many. This was one that I went into not expecting much. And, pleasantly surprised. It was a fun season. It had its lows, but it had its highs as well. Stephanie was not the hero that she was in Palau, but I still found her really entertaining because she was like ruining her reputation. I'm like, this is good TV. Rafe, amazing. Amazing. So, wasn't terrible. It's a B minus. Yeah. Moving on to Panama, Exile Island. This was the birthplace of my favorite Shane Powers. This was the birthplace of who I think is the best player to never win, Cirie Fields. The birthplace of Terry Deets. The birthplace of Bruce. Bob Dog. Oh my god, there's so much to love about this. I'm gonna. It's a B plus. It's a B plus. I'm just gonna put in the B. It's a good season. Is it enough to put in A? Maybe, but I'm not feeling it today. Moving on to Cook Islands. In my opinion, this is one of the hardest seasons to define. It was a season where so many great people came from. Princess Parvati. I was about to say Queen, but that's held by Sandra. Princess Parvati, Yul, Ozzy, Penna. Love Jonathan. But the season, it wasn't. I don't know. I did like it, and then there were things I didn't like about it. So because I'm so mixed, I'm gonna chuck it right in the middle, B range. Now moving on to Fiji. This was the one where the twist turned a lot of people off the season because it gave one tribe a massive advantage over the others, and that's exactly what happened. The other tribe were decimated. However, from that trashy tribe were Yaman and Earl, and they played a really great game, and there was actually a lot of good gameplay in this season. Fun tribal councils, fun characters. I had never heard of Alex before watching Fiji, and Alex was great, and I was so surprised. No one ever talks about Alex. I like Alex. Come on, I'm an Alex fan. So I'm gonna put it. Oh, it's so tough. I'll give Vanuatu a friend. It's a C plus. It really could be B, but it wasn't that good. But all Survivor seasons, let's be real, all Survivor seasons are A and S. But for the sake of this thing, we're gonna spread it out a bit. So we're going on to China. I love China. China is so good. China is so good. China has one of the best casts ever. China, just yes. China is like China. I love me some China. I'm chucking China right in the Survivor tier. Just watch China. I like me some China. Okay, Micronesia. Fans vs favorites 1. It was incredible that they managed to make such a great favorites tribe out of only one-time non-winner players. And that is such a legendary tribe, possibly one of my favorite tribes of all time, just based on the sort of players that were there. Jonathan Penn is one of my favorites. Then you had legends like Cirie and Parvati and Ozzy. James was great. Amanda. The fans tribe, Natalie Bolton and Eric are definitely 2 legends. But besides from that, it wasn't that good, except for Chet, of course, let's be real. But this season has enough to it that it goes right in the S tier. Yes. And then that brings us to Gabon. Gabon. Sweet little Gabon. Crazy Gabon. Some people don't like Gabon. Those people are wrong. Gabon is great. I mean, it was a train wreck. Terrible players, but it's so good. So fun. It was just fun. It's like if you're just not in the mood for like an amazing season, and you're willing just to be like, Gabon, Gabon. So I'm putting Gabon in the A. There's nothing like Gabon, and I like Gabon. Okay, now we have Tocantins. Tocantins is one of my favorite seasons, and it's one of the seasons that not everyone says is a great season, yet I still think it's one of the top 3 seasons ever, because it is so funny. It is the funniest season. It has Tyson. I guess it depends if you're a Tyson and a Coach fan. Tyson and Coach in this season, some of my top 5 players of all time based on entertainment. I had such a good time. Sierra Reed is so underrated. She's hilarious. And her relationship with Tyson, I could watch this so many times. If it was just up to me, I'd put it in the S, but I'm thinking about everyone, and I think that some people might bring this down a little, so I'm just going to put in the A. Don't think it's that superior, but it is definitely a great season. Now, Samoa. This season, called Samoa, is basically just Russell Hantz. And I think if you're a fan of Russell Hantz, then this could be a great season. If you don't like Russell Hantz, like a lot of people don't, then this could just be a terrible season. I'm going to try and look beyond that. If I look beyond Russell Hantz, all I can think of is Shambo. And then a little bit of Natalie White, but that's just because she won. It wasn't great, but it wasn't a terrible season. Like, it's entertaining enough. Even if you don't like Russell, you can still potentially look at his game in Samoa and go like, this is groundbreaking. There's nothing's been like this. And you could argue that it really changed the way that Survivor is played. So I'm gonna put it in the B. I'm gonna put it in B minus. B minus. Now, heroes versus villains. I think we all know where this one's going. Right in the D. No, right in the S. This is the best season of Survivor. It brought 20 amazing players, not including Sugar, sorry Sugar, but all the legends you can think of, excluding some. 20 legends all came together, and it was a battle. It was amazing. Now, 21. Nicaragua. Isn't it incredible that you can go from heroes versus villains to Nicaragua? Okay, I didn't like Nicaragua, but I'm gonna stay positive. What did I like about Nicaragua? Marty. Marty is one of my favorite contestants of all time, and I'm so sad that he's never come back. So I love me some Marty. And Fabio, somehow he won, yet he is so amazing as a character. But otherwise, I was just frustrated watching this. I was annoyed. This is possibly one of the only seasons that I didn't want to watch, but I watched because I want to say that I've watched all of Survivor. And it's got to be pretty low to be there. So I'm putting in the D. Sorry if you like Nicaragua. I didn't. So, Redemple McTemple. Where are ya? There you are. The return of Boston Rob and Russell Hantz. Yeah, terrible season. Although, I think people say it's worse than it actually is. There were some fun moments. Actually, were there? Philip's antics were somewhat good sometimes. Look, it's going in the D, but all I'm trying to say is it's not as bad as everyone says. I enjoyed watching it. Like Matt going to Redemple Temple all the time, that was some good stuff going on. That was some good storytelling. Well, good story. Maybe not the telling of it was that good, but it's not as bad as everyone says. 23, South Pacific. So Coach and Ozzy came back, and Coach was so good in Tocantins, and then he just wasn't good in Heroes vs. Villains, and he wasn't really good as a character in South Pacific either. As a player, severely underrated. I think Coach should have won South Pacific. And I feel like there's lots of people, ooh, my chair went down, who really like South Pacific because it's wacky and it's fun. It's a bit cartoony. So it's a B or C. I don't think it just touches the season. But again, not a bad season.
CBS.
24, One World. When we're talking about cartoony seasons, I don't know why, but One World stands out as the most cartoony season. It seems like the casting was not 20 real Americans. It was just fake people. Like Tarzan. No one in the world is like Tarzan. No one is like Colton. No one is like Alicia. No one's like Leaf. No one's like Troyzan. It was just like it's just like a dumbed down, and then the twist. It was not a good twist. The way they handled the twist was not a good. It's a bad season. I'm sorry, One World. You were in D. Although it did produce a very great winner, but that's not enough to redeem it. Philippines. We are exiting the Dark Ages. We've just had 21, 22. We've had we've had 4 C and D range seasons, and we get Philippines. It's great. Jonathan Penner is great. If you don't like Jonathan Penner, get out. Michael Scoopin is a disappointment. And Russell Swan was a bit of a disappointment as well, although that idol searching scene was funny as. But yeah, Philippines as a season, it's an amazing season. It's in the A range. Now, 26. Just when we thought we exited the Dark Age, we go right back down. Caramoan, it had some good moments, like some of the best tribal councils you could say, like with the Three Amigos or whatever they're called. But the favorites were not anyone's favorite except for Malcolm, possibly Brenda. No one else really. Oh God, why did they bring back Francesca? And then the fans was one of the most boring and forgettable tribes of all time, not including Reynold, possibly Eddie, possibly Sherry, but everyone else. Who were they? I don't know. There's like lots of young blonde chicks. I don't know who they are. Caramon, you're like a D with some good moments, so I'm putting you in C. Now we have Blued versus What here? Tyson coming back. I'm always a fan, and he won it. Incredible. The thing I liked about Blood vs. Water is just like Caramon, they brought back 10 returning players. And these were like strange people who were more cast because their loved ones were good. And yet it showed that you don't have to have fan favorites or Probst's favorites for the season to work out well. I think it was a really good season, and considering the loved ones were only there because their loved ones had played Survivor before, they did really well. I'm willing to put this in the A range. I think this was an A range. Now, Cagayan. Thinking about the Cagayan cast. First of all, the Brains tribe is one of the most iconic tribes ever. Every single one of them, even the first boot, David, were interesting people. They were crazy. They were terrible. And I loved it so much. And then to top that off with Tony, and him winning. Oh my God, this is a S Survivor season. And it was all new players, and it showed that we can have all new players and it can be incredible. And it introduced the theme of Brains vs. Brawn vs. Beauty, which is a really good theme. It worked out when they did it the second time. So S range for sure. 29. This is when they repeated a theme with a little bit of a change. No returning players. I think this season was good. It had some interesting characters. It had Wentworth, had Jeremy, had Keith, and Natalie Anderson. But it doesn't really stand out. There are lots of people who really like this. I don't hate it for sure. I just don't think it's particularly amazing. It's really right in the middle for me. It's one of those seasons that are just right in the middle. Like, oof, Survivor. It's just like Survivor, you know, just Survivor, not Survivor, not Survivor, Survivor. Yeah, you get me. You get me. You get me, Billy. Yeah, you get me. I can see that smile. Oh yes. Okay, so what are we up to? 12:30. Worlds Apart. I watched Worlds Apart. Worlds Apart was one of the first seasons I watched, and I enjoyed it. Like, I was really rooting for Mike, and I wasn't spoiled about his placement. And so when he won, I was like, yes, this is incredible. But then on the rewatch, bit of a joke. The cast was pretty trashy, and Mike only won because of immunity and an idol, which is something that I would not support these days. So it's in this. It's not very good. I don't really. I'm not. Yeah. Okay. Second Chance, Cambodia. So I think when this came out, people were like, "This is one of the best seasons ever." And then as it sort of matured and people looked back, they were like, "Oh, this is just like 20 game bots coming back and playing a game of chess." And if you're not into that, then I totally respect that you don't view this as a great season. But I find that interesting. I found the season really entertaining. I thought it had a cast, and it's so good that they brought back old school players, because I love when they bring back old school players, which they never do, but it's so good. So I'm willing to put this in the A range. People may disagree, but I don't care. 32. Brains, Brawn, Beauty, number 2. This was a really good season. This is the first season that I watched live. This is what hooked me on. I'm not going to get into that or reverse Michelle thing, but it was a really fun season. I loved every episode, and there was some great gameplay and some great cast. A great cast. I'm putting this in the A. Okay, moving on. We have 33. Millennials versus Gen X. I've also read that some people don't like this season. I haven't really read an explanation for why they don't, because I really liked this season. I thought that the millennial cast was a much better tribe of players. Like, I didn't find anyone that interesting from the Gen X, except for David and then Amazing Race team Chris and Brett. But yeah, as a season, so many tribal councils were great. So I'm going to put it in the A. I think that was a really great season. 34. Game Changers. Game Changers. Yes. This had me like 50% extremely excited when it aired, because 50% of the cast are absolutely incredible, and then the other 50% are like, meh, meh, meh. Yeah. And that's sort of how it played out. Like, the good 50% went out early in a bang. So watching pre-merge, even though it was disappointing, I loved it. I was like, this is some epic. I didn't necessarily love it, but it had me on the edge of my seat like crazy. Like, these are people that I really cared about, and they were getting voted out in the most interesting ways possible. And I was like, okay, all the good people are gone, but if this post-merge has the same level of gameplay, then I'm all for it. And then it really didn't. It had a really boring, terrible post-merge, and the editing was like really poor for some reason. It was just, oh god, it just such a letdown. I was so sad. Just a sad, sad season that. Is it sad enough to put in the D range? No. So I'm going to put in the C. I think that's fitting. Now, 35. Heroes Vasilis Vasilis. This is another interesting season, because I feel like it was like a 3-act structure. 3 very different acts. You had the pre-merge. Personally, I didn't really like the pre-merge because it was pretty boring. Not much happened. Alan Ball happened, which was incredible. Ali happened, which was pretty great. But besides from that, it was nothing special. I think the cast as a whole were pretty good, like lots of memorable contestants. interesting people. But yeah, so pre-merge Act 1, nah. Then we got into Act 2. There was like one point where it just spiked, and I was like, yes, I like this. This is good. This is where I wanted it to go. So Act 2 I thought was very good. And then Act 3 is the Ben Act, and lots of people based purely on the Ben Act will rank this season very low. I hated the Ben Act as well. Yeah, very sad. But as a whole, it has some good moments that people sort of forget about. So I'm gonna put it in the B range. Yeah. Now we move on to Ghost Island. This was pretty terrible. The Ghost Island twist. I guess it was fun, but it wasn't really necessary. Didn't really add much. I think lots of people would call the season terrible based on the post-merge, because it really was a pagonging, and it was just frustrating how no one was going against Wendell and Dom, and they never ever did. But I think lots of people forget the pre-merge of this. I thought this was a really great pre-merge. I thought Bradley was a great villain. Chris is such a legend, and don't forget big old Jacob Derwin. He was a really fun addition. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I feel like it's just outside of B range, so I'll put it in C. And finally, David vs. Goliath. This was a godsend. After very disappointing 34, 35, 36, David vs. Goliath came along, and no one was expecting it, because the theme is like, okay, Probst. And then it just worked out because of the cast. Let's be real, it was because of the cast. And actually, no, not just the cast. So the cast was brilliant, which really helped. Gameplay was brilliant. Everyone was there to win. But I thought the editing in this season was some of the best editing I've ever seen. I don't know why that hasn't continued in Edge of Extinction, but it was just so great. Is it enough to be in the S range? I wouldn't put it there with this Legendary 6. Looking at that, I'm like, that is the freshest Survivor. Potentially, over time, people might look back on David vs. Goliath and go, yeah, this is one of the seasons of Survivor. But for now, I'm going to put in the A. And there you have it. The Survivor Season Tier List Maker. Fairly evenly, well, not that evenly spread. It's sort of like A is the most, and then a little bit, and then a little bit, and it goes down. So that's good. It's good to see that there's not many seasons in the real low area, and the vast majority is in A, which should be, because it's the greatest show ever made. Let me know if you agree with my opinions. You probably don't, because no one ever agrees entirely with everyone. I'm interested to see if you think any of these S seasons are crap, if any of these D seasons are brilliant. But for now, peace out. I'll see you later.